Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2. Let's start there. Have you ever been to a buffet and you just don't know what to get and know where to start? That's this topic, okay, guys? So let's pray, ask for the Holy Spirit's guidance, and we'll get into it. Dear Lord, we love you. We thank you. We praise you for your word. And tonight, Lord, as we dive headlong into the study of who this man of sin is, we ask that you would just keep us aware of the schemes of the enemy, that you would just keep us aware of the things to come, and that we may look forward not to the coming of this man, but your coming, O Lord. And so, Lord, just let us enjoy you tonight and all the things that you have to tell us about this guy. We love you, Lord. We praise your name. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. According to Jesus, the greatest prophet in the Bible was who? John the Baptist, right. Now, a close second, in my humble opinion, is a guy named Daniel. I love Daniel's prophecies. Now that's debatable. Just don't go, well, Pastor Andrew, you said that Daniel was... No, hey. It's open to discussion. I mean, Isaiah packs a wallop, man. He goes through a lot of stuff. Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Zechariah. There's tons of them. But man, Daniel is amazing. The accuracy. Now, with prophecy, there always has to be accuracy, no matter what. But there's something about Daniel's accuracy. Talking about thread in the needle. He is very specific in his prophecies and about world history. And one of them happens in Daniel chapter 2. We'll just summarize it for you. King Nebuchadnezzar, the head of Babylon, is there. Daniel has been taken captive by the Babylonian Empire that has conquered Jerusalem. We believe that he was a prince of Israel, a prince of very wealthy. We don't know that much about his past, but we know that he was very wealthy. He was brought back to Babylon in the captivity. He was made a wise man, a person who looked at the stars. They're going to show up again in Bethlehem. His academic descendants after him. But Daniel's there, and he's with his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they are just in this amazing kingdom of Babylon. And you see the stories in the first half of the book of Daniel, these amazing stories of standing up for righteousness' sake and all these things. But in Daniel chapter 2, the king has this dream. And he has this dream, but he doesn't tell his wise men about it. He says, you tell me what the dream is. And everybody's like, we can't do that. Tell us what the dream is, and we'll tell you what it means. And he goes, no, you tell me my dream, and then tell me what it is. And they said, we can't do that. And they said, listen, if you don't do that, I'm going to wipe you all out and turn your homes into piles of dung. Man, talk about a cruddy day. And so all this is going on, and people are freaking out, and Daniel says, hey, the Lord will show the interpretation. In Daniel chapter 2, verse 28, I love that verse. He says, he's talking to the king Nebuchadnezzar, and he says, but there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter days. So he's talking about latter days. He's talking about end times. He says, your dream has to do with the end times, king. Your dream and the visions of your head upon your bed were these. And as for you, O king, thoughts came to your mind while you were on your bed about what would come to pass after this. And he who reveals secrets has made known to you what it will be. So King Nebuchadnezzar was laying his head on the pillow, and he's thinking, what's going to happen after I'm gone? What's going to be the future? What's going to happen in the future after I'm gone? And he says, but as for me, this secret has not been revealed to me, but because I have more wisdom than anyone living, but for our sakes, but for our sakes who make known the interpretation to the king, and that you may know the thoughts of your heart. So he's saying this is from the Lord. He says, you, O king, were watching, and behold, the great image this great image. Now, an image is a statue, a picture, a statue of something. This great image, whose splendor was excellent, stood before you, and its form was awesome. So it was a massive statue. This image's head was a fine gold. Its chest and arms were of silver. Its belly and thighs of bronze. Its legs of iron. Its feet partly with iron and partly with clay. And you watched while a stone was cut out without hands, which struck the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them in pieces. Then the iron and the clay and the bronze and the silver and the gold were crushed together and became like chaff from the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away so that no trace of them was found. And the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This is the dream. Now we tell you the interpretation of it before the king. You, O king, are a king of kings, for the God of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, strength, and glory. And wherever the children of men dwell, of the beasts of the field, of the birds of the heaven, he has given them into your hands and has made you the ruler of them all. You are the head of gold. But after you shall arise another kingdom, inferior to yourself. Then another and a third kingdom in bronze, which shall rule over the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron breaks in pieces and scatters everything. And like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all others. Whereas you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron. The kingdom shall be divided, yet the strength of iron shall be in it, just as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay. And as the toes and the feet were partly of iron, partly of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly fragile. As you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men, and they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. And in the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Inasmuch as you saw that the stone was cut out of that mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God has made known to the king what will come to pass after this. The dream is certain, and its interpretation is sure. Wow. What Daniel did here is he interpreted a dream that God gave King Nebuchadnezzar that laid out a whole timeline of world history. The other day I was teaching my kids about world history. It was one of my jobs that Kelly has given me. And I was teaching my kids history, which I love. And that we were explaining the different timelines of world history. And we were laying it out from Rome to Byzantium, the Byzantine kingdom, and how east and west fell, and all this stuff was going on. And then after we were done laying down, Anna just looks at me and she goes, that was really interesting how one goes into the other. And that's what's happening here in this dream, is one kingdom happens after the other. It's literally a timeline. And he showed this timeline in a big statue. And the king Nebuchadnezzar saw this head of gold, a chest and arms of silver, a belly and its thighs of bronze, legs of iron, and its feet and 10 toes were iron mixed with clay. They decrease with value, gold being the most valuable, silver, bronze. They decrease in value, but it also increases with strength. There's a strength that kind of goes down to those legs of iron. Now, we know who these people are because hindsight is 20/20. And he lays out that the head is gold, so we have a starting point. The head of gold is the Babylonian Empire. It was symbolic of King Nebuchadnezzar. The wealth of Babylon was tremendous. It was insane how wealthy they were. And then after that, we know from world history that you have this Medo-Persian Empire, the Medes with one arm and the Persians with the other. And of course, it goes into one chest, being the Persian Empire. this duality kingdom, and the Persians came after the Babylonians. And then the belly and the thighs were the Bronze Empire. Who is that brassy empire? It was the Greeks under Alexander the Great. And they took over. And then it goes into those legs of iron. The Roman Empire, which of course was divided into two legs. And that was strong. It was the strongest of all. Daniel in his interpretation, or actually in God's interpretation, Daniel says, check out the legs. They crush everything. They're the most strongest of all. And Rome was that. And then it goes into the feet and the 10 toes of iron mixed with clay. Now, that world-dominating kingdom has not occurred yet. You're like, well, why didn't he bring in the Asiatic kingdoms of the Ming dynasty and those different? Why does he bring up the emperor of like Mali in Africa? And why doesn't he bring up other kingdoms like the Incan or Mayan? Why around here? Because this is the Middle East, and around that area is the central point of Bible prophecy. And in that area where Israel is, really the focal point of God's eye, this is where all this is going to go down. Not saying those aren't important, and not saying they don't play a part. When you study all of Bible prophecy, you'll see the kings of the east, the kings of the south, the kings of the north. You'll see those things pop up. But here is the central focus. This is the hotbed of Bible prophecy, is the Middle East. But that those 2 feet with 10 toes, that one hasn't occurred yet. That is a global dominating power that has not been yet on the scene. And it says that when that comes to power, it's going to be weak, but it's going to be strong. That's the kingdom which we know of as the kingdom of the Antichrist. That future kingdom. And this theme comes up in Scripture, Bible prophecy, talking about this guy. This is what it tells us, that it's going to be strong and weak at the same time. This kingdom, some people call it a revival of the Roman Empire because it's made out of Rome, the legs of iron, which we know is Rome. It will be Roman in power, but yet weak as clay, the weak of humanity. Mankind is made out of clay. And so it's going to be a humanly weak, but yet very strong kingdom, the kingdom of this guy named the Antichrist. It's going to be a place also during this kingdom that another kingdom is set up, the kingdom of stone, the rock, Jesus Christ. It says that in his dream, he saw a rock descend out of heaven that was not cut with hands. It was not from man. And it strikes the feet. And it crushes all of the past kingdoms. And then it grows and takes over the whole earth, speaking of the kingdom of God, the millennial kingdom, the return of Jesus Christ to set up his kingdom, the rock that the builders rejected. That's who's coming back. How great is that? And so this future kingdom of iron mixed with clay, its leader is known as the Antichrist. Now, I want you at this point to remove everything that you have ever seen in a movie. Okay? It is not the Spawn, Rosemary's Baby, all that junk. The Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that came out a long time ago. Even Tim LaHaye's books. I want you, even though those are really good, I want you to just take from the Bible, take from the Scriptures, what the Scripture lays out. He's not the spawn of Satan, no. We're like, well, I have a theory on who the Antichrist is. Well, don't go there. Don't go there. The Republicans will come up, it's Obama. And then the Democrats will come up, it's Trump. We don't know. But we do know certain things about the Antichrist that are pretty amazing. And remember, with this study of this biography of the Antichrist, which we're going to cover tonight, we're going to look at a really horrible person. But remember, we're not looking for the coming of the Antichrist. We're looking for the coming of who? Of Christ. Not the Antichrist, but Christ. So we need to be focused upon that. But his name, we call him the Antichrist, which means false, fake, or against the Christ, and Christ means Messiah. So it's going to be a false Messiah. And Jesus said in the last days there'll be many false messiahs, but this one will be the leader of this world, global, dominating kingdom that's going to be like Rome in its ferocity, but also weak in its length. It's only going to last for 7 years. He has many names. He's known as the little horn in Daniel. You'll see that pop up. Man of sin, the lawless one, and Paul likes to use that one. Son of perdition, John uses that one, I think. The beast in Revelation, John uses a couple of them. There's around 30 names in the scriptures that names the Antichrist. But Antichrist kind of has kind of shot to the top. Antichrist, son of perdition, the beast. There's around 30 of them that are there. Whatever you call him, idiot. Yeah, that's a good one. Mean guy. But he is there. And so many different names, but he will, the Antichrist, we're going to refer to him as that. We don't know his real name. And it's funny because there's in the scriptures, there's a whole biography on this guy. Scattered throughout scriptures and Bible prophecy, his biography is already written. Isn't that crazy? You know, a biography, in order for a biography to be done, you usually have to have a birthday, event days, and then death day. You know, a biography needs to be written, and you don't even need a death day. But this guy, I believe he's born. I believe he's in our world, some because I believe that Jesus is coming soon. But guys, I'll tell you, listen, his biography is already written. And boy, it's an amazing biography. Because it's a biography that shows the glory of Jesus Christ and how he's going to defeat this guy. What's going to be his rising up? We don't know his birthday right now. Don't know his name. We can guess where he's from what the scripture tells us. But I will tell you this. This is the world that will be going on when the Antichrist rises to power. The world will be a chaotic place. There is going to be a time of global chaos that will be going on in the world at that time. I believe that we know that we will see the church will not be here for the coming of the Antichrist at all. I don't even think we'll see him come to power. And if we do, we won't even know it. We know that the rapture will happen before all this goes down. We won't see it. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, it says, hey, some of them were worried about that they are in the midst of the day of the Lord. Now, the day of the Lord, guys, starts at the beginning of the tribulation and goes all the way through and ends literally through the whole time, all of end times from the around the time of the rapture, all the way through to the great white throne judgment is the day of the Lord. So anytime you hear the day of the Lord, it could mean a couple of different things. It's a process of time. It's not an actual day, but the day of the Lord is a literal period of time that will last around 1,007 years plus. And it's going to be a time that starts around the rapture of the church and then goes through all the way towards and ends at this time known as the Great White Throne Judgment, which we will hit in our last Bible study of the month on Wednesday nights. But with that said, the day of the Lord, guys, will happen according to 2 Thessalonians. But listen, don't think that you missed it. People are worried. I think we were in it. We're in the day of the Lord. We missed it. We're in it. And he says, hey, don't be ignorant. He says in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, he says, listen, let me just read it. I don't want to mess up the passage. Thought I memorized it, but I didn't. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, it says, now, brethren, concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and our gathering together to him, we ask you not to be soon shaken in mind or troubled, either by spirit or by word or by letter, as if from us, as though the day of Christ, or actually the day of the Lord, it's a bad translation to put Christ there, but it's really the day of the Lord had come. Let no one deceive you by any means. For that day will not come unless the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition. That's the Antichrist, who opposes and exalts himself. Now notice that word where it says, not that let no one deceive you, because there was a lot of letters going around in the early church that were telling Christians that the day of the Lord had already happened. The rapture has already taken place. You missed it. Wouldn't that be horrible? You get a text, hey, you missed it. Well, that was going on. He goes, don't freak out. It hasn't happened yet. He goes, listen, that won't come unless the day of the Lord, the coming of Jesus Christ, and the day of the Lord will not come until, and look what it says here, the falling away comes first. Now, in the Greek, that's an interesting passage, because the falling away means apostas or apostasy. Now, there are phrases in the scripture that talks about the falling away. And in context, it shows the falling away of someone spiritually, like if they leave the faith or walk away from the faith. But the word apostasy literally means departure. And so if you read it again, it says, let no one lie to you by any means, for that day will not come unless the departure comes first. Is that the rapture? I believe it is. The word apostasy isn't just for Christian losing of faith, which it is, but it also can mean not the fallen away, but the apostasy or the departure. When the church departs this earth at rapture, the rapture has to come first. From the faith, yes, but guys, this is the rapture. I believe it. The falling away comes first, and then the man is revealed. The first thing that's going to happen after the rapture of the church will be the rise of Antichrist. It's going to be the first thing that comes up. It's going to be a time of global chaos. The invasion of Gog and Magog, Iran, Turkey, and those countries will happen, I believe, after the rapture of the church. There won't be World War III, but it will be close to it. A Middle East war, according to Ezekiel 38 and 39, and if you look at it, it describes nuclear war. It describes a time of global chaos. The rapture will happen, the time of insane confusion. There's also going to be a time of insane people coming to the Lord. The church will be gone. The people left behind are known as tribulation saints. They're not the church. They're a different group. The church gets raptured. Those who get saved after the rapture are called tribulation saints. And they're not like us, the church. They were left behind, but they came to know the Lord. Wouldn't it be a trip if you're lost and you have that crazy family member that's always talking about the rapture of the church, and then it happens? I mean, you're probably trying to dig up their Bibles and their Bible study notes, cruising old Bible studies on YouTube. This is going to be on YouTube. I wonder if someone's going to type in Biography of Antichrist and watch this. Well, after the rapture, that's scary. But they're going to come to know the Lord, these tribulation saints, and they're going to come and live for the Lord. And it's going to be a time of spiritual chaos. They're going to see something miraculous happen with the invasion of Gog and Magog, where God actually stops them in their tracks and stops them dead in their tracks. And it's his supernatural intervention to save the nation of Israel. The rapture of the church will cause spiritual chaos. There might be a time of economic, political, and social voids. It's prime time for a world dictator to arise. And that's what is going to happen. Out of this global chaos, the Antichrist, arises. Now turn over to Revelation chapter 6. Next week we'll learn. We'll have a time called the tribulation timeline, where we're going to go through the tribulation, and we see that the first thing that happens in the tribulation is the rise of the conqueror. In Revelation chapter 6, it says, "Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the four living creatures saying with a voice like thunder, 'Come and see.'" So John does it. "And I looked, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer." Who is this? Oh, he has a white horse. It must be Jesus. No. The man on the white horse is Messiah-like, yes. He's going to look like a Christ, look like a Messiah, but it's not Jesus yet. And he's going to look like a Messiah figure on a white horse. It says what? What kind of weapon does he have? He has a bow, but no arrows. Notice that. A bow is an offensive weapon. It's a conqueror weapon. It's a weapon to go out and conquer. But there's no bow, there's no arrows in his quiver. There's no arrows there. It's going to be a bloodless takeover of the world. It's going to be a bloodless takeover. He's not going to take his crown. In fact, what does it say there? A crown was given to him. It will be given to him. It won't be he won't take the crown like world domination usually does, right? Nebuchadnezzar took his crown. Darius took his crown. Xerxes took his crown. Alexander the Great took his crown. Caesars took their crown. This man, it will be given to him. And it will be given to him. And so it's not going to be he will conquer, he will do it, and he'll go out conquering, but it's not going to take it by force. That's how his start will be. Now skip ahead to Revelation 13. Look what it says about him next. In Revelation 13, verse 1, it says, "Then I stood on the sand of the sea." Now this sea is not the Pacific Ocean. It's the Mediterranean Ocean. Remember, that's the central point of these world empires is always around the Mediterranean, especially the Roman Empire. Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Now notice this. In Revelation chapter 17, you find out that out of the sea is the Gentile world. In fact, Revelation 17:15 talks about how the seas are like the Gentile world. And it's the heart of the Roman Empire, the Mediterranean Sea. So out of this will arise this beast. And it has 7 heads and 10 horns. Now we're going to find out in Revelation 17:9 that these heads there are mountains. It starts to talk about what they are. These 7 heads are 7 mountains. Now, if you know anything about Rome and the Roman Empire, Rome is built upon 7 hills or mountains. And it says, and it tells us who the Antichrist or what the Antichrist will be like. And it says there, it tells us about him. In chapter in 17, let's just skip over there. In Revelation 17, verse 9, it says this: "Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits." And then it goes on to talk about the Roman Empire. It talks about all these different Caesars that really we don't have time to get into. And these Caesars that came out of the Roman Empire and how he's going to be like these Caesars that are going to rule the earth with harshness. He says it's going to be like Nero. He says it's going to be like Nero was. And then these 7 heads are like 7 Caesars. And he says he's going to be this last one. He's going to be like this last one. In verse 10, there are also 7 kings. 5 are dead. 1 is, and the other has yet to come. And when he comes, he must continue a short time. Talking about how they're going to come in the nature of the Caesars ruling. Now, upon their heads, talking about these 10 horns, we know from Revelation that they're going to have crowns upon their heads, showing that they're rulers. These 10 horns are 10 rulers or kingdoms of this Antichrist kingdom. Remember in Daniel's vision, 10 toes, 10 horns. There's a 10 that's going on here. And you see it throughout Scripture. It's not something that we're trying to hide or some mysterious thing. It's just there when you read it. This 10 kingdom world dominating power. If you flip back to Daniel chapter 7. In Daniel chapter 7, he starts to address this a little bit. How the Antichrist will rise up. In Daniel chapter 7, have you ever had a night filled with bad dreams or visions? You just like, man, that was a bad dream. Then you go back to bed and then you have another one. You're like, man, this stinks. Last time I ate pizza. Well, Daniel was getting these visions and dreams from the Lord. And it says, in the first year of Belteshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and a vision of his head while he was in bed. Then he wrote down the dream, telling the main facts. In Daniel chapter 7, verse 1. And in verse 2, it says, Daniel spoke, saying, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven were stirring upon the great sea. There it is, the sea. And four great beasts came out of the sea, each different from the other. So here he goes again. He's going to see four different creatures come out of the ocean, the Mediterranean Ocean. He says the first one was like a lion, had eagle's wings. I watched till its wings were plucked off. And it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand on 2 feet like a man. And his man's heart was given to it. This is Babylon. Speaking of Nebuchadnezzar, how God humbled him and how God made him to stand. And we believe gave him a heart. Gave him a heart where he started to follow the God, our Jehovah God, and really started to follow him. If you read Daniel, you'll see that story. So verse 4, if you're making notes in your Bible, verse 4, the lion is Babylon. And suddenly, another beast, a second, like a bear. It was raised up on one side and had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. And they said thus to it, arise, devour much flesh. This is the Persian Empire coming up, having its strength of a bear. Xerxes and those things, the Medo-Persian Empire, it devoured the 3 ribs. We don't have time to get into it, are 3 different continents that the Persian Empire took over. And then in verse 6, and this I looked, and there was another beast, like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings of a bird. It was a fast animal. And we know that Alexander the Great was a fast-moving kingdom. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. We know that the Greek Empire was broken up into 4 different sections. Ptolemy, I forgot the other 3, but Cassander, and then 2 others. The Grecian Empire was cut up into 4, and it had 4 heads. This, verse 6, is the Grecian Empire. And then this I saw in the night vision. And behold, a 4th beast. It was dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had a huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue of its feet. And it was different from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns on top of it. Uh-oh. So this 4th beast. What is it? It's this crazy thing that came up. Now remember the iron legs being Rome, but its teeth were iron. But this beast is different. Is it Rome? Well, I believe it's this 4th Roman Empire, but yet it's Roman-like. It's different than all the others. I was considering the horns, Daniel says. I was looking at those horns, those 10 horns, and there was another horn, a little horn, and it was sprouting up among them, before whom 3 of the first horns were plucked out by the roots. So this Antichrist, this little horn, takes out 3 of the other horns. And there in this horn were eyes, like the eyes of a man, and this little horn had a mouth, and it spoke pompous words. Ooh, that's like an 80s horror flick right there, man. Like a little claymation. That's just horrific. And this little horn, but this is it has little eyeballs. Like, I'm the best. And it takes out 3 of the horns. My gosh, if I was a Daniel, I'd be like, pinch me. Shadrach, throw some water on me. And it's like, gosh, man, this is a horrific dream. And he's seeing this horn arise. Now, what does it all mean? What does it mean, guys? This is the rise of the Antichrist. It always talks about the mouth of the Antichrist, the pompous words that he will say. Does he take out 3 horns? So we believe he does. In the end times, when you look at the Battle of Armageddon, he's going to have a problem with the kings of the north, the kings of the south, and kings of the east. He's going to have all that. And remember, the Antichrist is from the West. He's from Europe, probably, from the Roman Empire. Is he Italian? I knew it. He's mafia. Oh, no. It's from Europe. We don't know where he's from. We could guess. Some people say he's from Eastern Europe. Some people say he's from Rome. He's going to be Roman. He's from the Roman Empire. Okay? He's going to come from that area. He's going to take out people. Some people believe that he might take out America. That's why we're not in end times prophecy. One of the 3 horns he plucks out. When this happens, may be happening during the end of the tribulation period. But it is different than all others. And so they're going to come out, and look at verse 24. It says that, when he talks about him, in verse 11, it says, I watched them because of the sound of the pompous words which the horn was speaking. I watched till the beast was slain, its body was destroyed and given to burning flame. He brings it up again in verse 20. He says, the 10 horns that were on its head, and the other horn which came up, before which 3 fell, namely that horn which had eyes and a mouth, which spoke pompous words, whose appearance was greater than its fellows. So it grew bigger than everybody else. I was watching, and the same horn was making war against the saints and prevailing against them until the Ancient of Days came. Yes, I love that name, the Ancient of Days, Jesus Christ. He shows up and takes care of this guy. So he's going to rise up. What's going to happen? In this time of global calamity, this guy will rise up and people will throw their allegiance to him, probably in sheer desperation, out of chaos and fear. We know from 1 Thessalonians 5:3 that the slogan of the last days will be peace and safety. We want peace and we want safety, but we know that there won't be any. He won't bring a time of peace and safety. Every good politician has a slogan, hope and change, make America great again. This guy, peace and safety. And he's going to try to deliver peace and safety, but guess what? It's not going to be that way. People are going to love this guy. Everybody thinks that the Antichrist is going to be horrible, demonic, satanic, really, horrific person, but the world will love him and adore him, worship him eventually as God. So when you think of Antichrist, everybody goes, oh, it's the evil people. Was Hitler the Antichrist? No way. You know why? The whole world has to love him. I know England, France, and America really didn't like Hitler that much. And Hitler won't be liked as well. We know, the Antichrist will not be liked as well. He won't be the most liked person on earth. But yet the whole world, the majority of them, will love this guy. So look at the most lovable people on planet Earth. Those are the ones you flag. Who is it? And then your mind starts wondering. You're like, is it Bill Gates? No, I'm just joking. But we don't know. We can't even go there. But this is the thing. The guy who runs Amazon. I believe that. No, I'm just joking. But he controls too much. I have too many of his boxes in my backyard. But this is the thing, guys. He's going to try to bring in peace and safety, and he's going to control the whole globe, and it's going to be run into 10 different sections, we believe. If you look at the United Nations has cut up the whole globe into how many sections? 10. 10. They have different sections and different areas that they cover. It's just there. And what's he going to do? He's going to get, and all this rising is going to happen before the tribulation even starts, after the rapture. After the rapture, before the tribulation starts. Now, what's the start of the tribulation? Daniel chapter 9, verse 27 tells us this. Speaking of this last time, it says, then he shall confirm, that means the Antichrist in context, then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. Now, in Danielese, 1 week means 7 years. You're like, well, I thought a week was 7 days. In this Babylonian timeline, it's 7 years in context. He shall confirm a covenant that with many, not just with Israel, but with many people for 7 years. Some people think that he's going to say, okay, let's try this global community out for 7 years. And Israel's going to be a part of that. But this confirmed covenant with many for a 7-year time period is going to be the start. When he confirms it, when he agrees upon it, when it's done. And that's the start of the tribulation. And that's a time where God is going to pour out his wrath upon the whole lost world. And also, he's going to bring the Jewish people back to himself. And they're going to all believe in Jesus as their Messiah, the Yeshua HaMashiach. And it's a time where he brings back his wife to himself. And he protects them as much as he can, in which he will. It's amazing what happens during that time. It's a time of immense movements. Most everyone will love this man. The 7-year tribulation will start when he makes a covenant with many. And we believe part of that covenant, according to Revelation chapter 11, will have to do with part of it with the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem. In Revelation chapter 11, verse 1, it says, "Then I was given a reed, like a measuring rod. And the angel stood saying, 'Rise and measure the temple of God, the altar of those who worship there.'" Now, is there a temple in Jerusalem right now? No. It was destroyed in 70 AD by the Romans, and it has not yet been rebuilt. But John, in his vision of the end days, says there's a temple rebuilt in Jerusalem. And this temple will be in Jerusalem. It's not a heavenly temple. It's a temple in Jerusalem. And he says, measure the temple, but leave out the court which is outside the temple. That is the court of the Gentiles. And do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles, and it will be and they will tread the holy city underfoot for 42 months. Guys, this is a prophecy about the temple, and it will be rebuilt. And John here says, don't measure the outer court of the Gentiles. It's going to be given unto them. Now, what does that mean? If you take the temple without measuring the outer court of the Gentiles, you could literally put it right next to the Dome of the Rock Mosque, where it is on Jerusalem right now. See, a lot of people believe that the temple was on, well, it is, on top of where the Dome of the Rock Mosque is in Jerusalem. You know that big golden dome? That is the location of the ancient second temple. In fact, the platform is still up there. It's the court of the Gentiles. The ancient court of the Gentiles is that platform that was built by the Romans. Some people believe, and I believe it too because of archaeology and where the eastern gate is in archaeology, it's right below it. If you see the eastern gate in the wall, it is literally down and to the right of it. And the gate opens directly in front of it back in ancient days, which would make the temple to, if you're looking for the Mount of Olives, to the right of this amazing building that was built by Islam, the Dome of the Rock Mosque. Some people might say maybe to the left or to the right, but they're going to have a shared place. Now, I want to ask you, what if someone says, we're going to plan that we're going to put the most worshiped Jewish temple in the world, the most Jewish thing, and we're going to put it right next to the Dome of the Rock Mosque? Who would do that in our society? No one could do that. Everybody's like, pfft, pfft. They get mad when Jews walk on the Temple Mounts. I was up on the Temple Mount a couple years back, and I saw Jewish people come in, and there was a group of Muslim young ladies following them, spitting at them, yelling at them, screaming at them, anti-Semitic slurs the whole time. So you're like, how is that possible? The Antichrist, we believe, will bring the temple back to Jerusalem. Now, if you go to Jerusalem, you go to this wonderful place called the Temple Institute, and the Jews are ready to go. And they will tell you the Messiah will build the third temple. And they will declare this guy, the Antichrist, to be, guess what? The Messiah. But he's going to be a false one. He's not going to be the right one. And so when they do this, he has brought peace to the Middle East. Islam and Judaism side by side, a miracle worker, a political miracle worker. And during the first 3.5 years of tribulation, we'll find out next week, there will be judgments and wrath, but he will rise to power. He will rise to power. During those first 3.5 years, you're going to have two guys chilling out. We'll talk about it more next week, called the two witnesses. One, we know who it is. It's Elijah. You're like, what, a homeless guy named Elijah? No, it's not those crazy people on the street that say, I'm Elijah. No. We had a guy come into the office one time, and he says, I'm Elijah, the prophet. Just wanted to say hi. I'm like, hey, how you doing, man? Glad you're back, Where you been? We've been waiting for you, But listen, we know that he will return. You're like, well, I thought Elijah was dead. That was thousands of years ago. Remember what happened to him? Did he die? No, he was caught up in a fiery chariot. He never said he died. The Lord took him. So he's going to come back. The prophet Malachi says that before the coming of the Lord, Elijah shall return. Jesus says that John the Baptist is like Elijah. If you do a study of John the Baptist, he was dressing like Elijah. He was exactly like Elijah. Had the same diet, hairstyle, clothing style, had everything. It was a pre-Elijah. And he says, my Elijah's John. Then I'm going to get another Elijah, the Elijah. And he's going to show up. He's going to have a buddy with him. So who is it? Well, in Revelation chapter 11, it says that these two witnesses, it says that they're going to have, in verse 5, and if anyone who harms them, fire will proceed out of their mouth, devour their enemies. If anyone wants to harm them, he must be killed in this manner. They have the power to shut up heaven so that no rain falls. That's what Elijah did in the days of their prophecy. And they have the power over waters to turn them into blood and to strike the earth with plagues as often as they desire. Well, who does that? Moses. You're like, well, I know Moses died. He did. But there's something in Jude that is really weird. It says that the angel Michael took the body of Moses away. And Satan wanted it. And they contended. They argued. And what did angel Michael say to him? The Lord rebuke you, Satan. Get away. Why was Satan so obsessed over the body of Moses? We don't know. Will God bring him back? I'm not sure. Did he die or was he just knocked out? Listen, I believe it's Moses. Some people say it's Enoch. And it's true in Jude. Thank God for Jude. Jude tells us that Enoch was a prophet as well before he was raptured into heaven. And it says that, and what did he prophesy about? The second coming of Jesus. That was before the flood. Exactly. Crazy, huh? Could be Enoch. But I believe it has to do with the law, Moses, and the prophets, Elijah. I really believe and it tells you what they're going to do. And these two witnesses will be speaking out against the Antichrist, pointing people to the second coming, that he's coming, he's coming, he's coming. And it says that the Antichrist will come against them and eventually kill them. But after a couple of days, 3.5 days, it says that God will come upon them and they will come back to life and ascend up into heaven and the whole world will see it. Wow. It will be viral. And the whole world will see it. And they're going to be so happy because they're going to blame all the world's problems, not on global warming, not on politics, not on a politician. They're going to blame all the plagues that happened in the first part of the tribulation on those two guys. And they're going to be so happy. They're going to be giving gifts. It's going to be a holiday when they die. And then they're going to come back. Wow. Crazy. And then they're going to rise up. And then also during that first 3.5 years, the 144,000 little miniature Jewish virgin Billy Graham men are going to be going around the whole globe preaching the gospel. And we see them alive, functioning, preaching God, preaching the gospel to the world in Revelation 7. And then by Revelation 14, though, they're all dead. And the Antichrist have killed them all. Persecution. It's a week of a strong, it's 7 years of a strong, ferocious kingdom, but also it's going to be weak. Halfway through the tribulation, we find out in Revelation 13, and if you want to turn there, you can. Revelation 13:3, it says, and I saw one of the heads. No, look at the verse 2. Look at this. Now the beast which I saw, this is the beast that was coming out of the ocean. Remember, in verse 1, pardon me. In verse 1, this beast was coming out of the ocean. 7 heads, 7 hills, in likeness of the 7 Caesars that's going to come up. They have 10 horns on their head. This is with crowns. This is the Antichrist. And in verse 2, and the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like a bear, and his mouth was like the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him power. Now, the dragon is Satan. That Satan gave him power, the dragon gave him his throne, and the dragon gave him his great authority. So everything that he got and gets is from who? Satan. He's controlled by Satan. Satan is propping this guy up. And notice his kingdom is like a leopard, a bear, and a lion. It's like that. He is the conglomeration of every ancient world-dominating culture that has ever been there. Every kingdom. He's like the Babylonians. He's like the Persians. He's like the Greeks. He's everything, but he's not like the rest. He is greater than all of them. And he rises up. And if it said in verse 3, and I saw one of the heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world marveled and followed the beast. And you're like, well, what does that mean? Zechariah also talks about this. In Zechariah chapter 11, the prophet Zechariah, speaking of the Antichrist, in verse 17 says, woe to the worthless shepherd, that's the Antichrist, who leaves the flock. A sword shall be against his arm and against his right eye, and his arm shall completely wither, and his right eye shall be totally blinded. This is another wound of the Antichrist. This wound, we believe that this is going to be a mortal wound that will happen to his head. And they worship the dragon who gave him authority in the beast, and they worship the beast saying, who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And he was given a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies. And he was given authority to continue for 42 months. Then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. And it was granted to him to make war with the saints, to overcome them. And the authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. All who dwell on earth, who worship him, whose names had not been written in the Lamb's book of life, slain from the foundations of the world. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. Now, Jesus is, the prophet here, John, is telling him, listen, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. I believe in verse 9, he's talking directly to those tribulation saints. They're those Jews that have been left behind. He says, this is who I'm talking about. And he who leads in captivity shall go into captivity. He's talking about the captivity. But guys, this guy's going to have a wound to his head. Some people believe that he will die, or he will be killed in such a way, or wounded in such a way that he'll come back to life. We know in Revelation chapter 13 that Satan is thrown out, Revelation chapter 12, verse 7 through 12, that Satan is cast out of heaven during the end days. You're like, I thought he was already cast out into heaven. He was. But remember, Satan is standing before the throne room of God night and day, bringing accusation against all of us. But there will come a day where he will be cast out. And when Satan is cast out, because he's a finite being, he can't be everywhere at the same time, he's going to possess and inhabit the body of the Antichrist. Satan will bring him back to life or make him look like he has come back to life. 2 Thessalonians 2:9. People will worship him, raised him up, Christ-like, a resurrection. And after this will bring us to the halfway point called the abomination of desolation. Now, you think the first 3.5 years of the tribulation are bad. After the abomination of desolation comes not just the tribulation, the Bible calls it the Great Tribulation. Jesus calls it that. And what is the abomination of desolation? Matthew 24:15, Jesus mentions it. And Jesus tells you, if you don't want to learn more, read Daniel. I love that. Jesus is like giving a Bible study. He says, now, just like Daniel said, this is what it is. And in Daniel chapter 27, just turn over there. In Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, In Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, it says, then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week, that means 3.5 years in, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering, and on the wing of abomination shall be one who makes desolate. even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate. It is a time of a desolation. What happens? What happens? 2 Thessalonians tells us more detail. Paul goes in 2 Thessalonians. Let me just turn there real quick. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3, it says, let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Do you remember that when I was still with you, I told you about these things, Paul says to the Thessalonians? And now you know what is restraining, that he may be revealed in his own time. And so he's talking about it's going to happen in the temple. In Revelation 13, it gives more detail. See, guys, these are not like little hidden prophecies. It's scattered throughout Bible prophecy. It's seen there. It's very, very blatant. In Revelation chapter 13, it says they worship the dragon who gave authority to the beast. And they worship the beast, saying, who is like the beast? He's going to go into the temple and declare himself to be God. He's going to say, worship me, I'm God. And people will do it. They will do it. In verse 11 of Revelation 13:11, look what it says. It says, and I saw another beast coming out from the earth. So here's another beast. It had two horns like a lamb. That means like the rams. You know the rams? It had two horns like a lamb. Okay? And it spoke like a dragon. And he exercised all authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. He performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven and on earth in the sight of men. He's talking about the false prophet. From that point on, there's going to be a one-world religion. And you're not going to be allowed to worship Allah. You're not going to be allowed to worship Hinduism or Buddhism or Krishna or whatever your flavor of the month of God is. It is going to be a forced religion of worshiping the Antichrist. In chapter 17 of Revelation, it's called the woman who rides the beast, this religious system that's going to be set up on earth. And in Revelation 13, you see it, in Revelation 13, you see it, and it says that he causes all, verse 16, actually, let's just read in verse 14. It says, and he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs which he was granted to do the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image of the beast. So they're going to make a statue of the Antichrist, who was wounded by the sword and lived. And he was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast. So it's going to be like the false prophet is going to breathe life into this massive statue. And this image, now the statue of the beast, or this image, this likeness of the beast, will start to talk and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, that no one may buy or sell without one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So this false prophet will come up and demand immediate worship of the Antichrist. He will set up an image, just like Antiochus Epiphanes did, which Daniel talks about specifically. In Daniel chapter 7, he lays that out, and then he says, this guy's going to come just like Antiochus Epiphanes did. Remember, of all the world dictators in the world, the Antichrist is going to be a conglomeration of them all. And this image is going to come to life. In Revelation 20, verse 4, you're going to realize that if they don't receive the mark, if they don't worship the Antichrist, they're going to be beheaded. And it says they'll have to receive a mark. Now, notice what it says here. And that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. There's three different things there. It's not just a mark or the mark. We don't know what the mark is. And notice the mark is on the skin, not in the skin. It's visible. It's a sight thing. A lot of people believe that the mark of the beast will be some computer chip implanted into the skin. It's a thing not of commerce. Yes, you will not be able to buy and sell without it, but this is the thing that goes on the skin. It's a thing of worship. In America, we usually don't, we're not real tribal, but throughout all the globe, tribal populations around all the globe use tattoos to worship their God. I think Americans do too. You know, you put things on your skin that you love, right? And you mom, you get a little tattoo, you know, your sweetheart's name, you know. You put things that you love, your favorite team, you know, to show allegiance. That's what a tattoo is all about. You're showing allegiance to someone. You get a Christian tattoo, Jesus saves. You know, you have an old bad tattoo, you put some clothes on and you put underneath the naked woman there, saved by grace. You know, I saw that one before, you know, and you have those things, you know. I remember our old youth pastor here had a tattoo of a parrot. I'm like, what that used to be? And he goes, don't ask. He goes, I got this one fixed. I'm like, well, what did it look like? Don't ask. And I'm like, I used to always look at it and try to figure it out because I'm a bad person. And he would never tell me. But you know, you have those tattoos. I believe the mark is going to be a thing on the skin. You're like, well, all these people say it's a computer chip. I don't even, listen, by the time, let me just explain myself. By the time the halfway point occurs, it's going to be so bad, I don't even think we're going to have electricity. It's going to be so bad on earth that I don't even know if we're going to have power. That's why in the Battle of Armageddon, what are they riding? Not tanks. They're riding horses. What's up? Now, if I'm wrong, and it's a chip thing, kill me in heaven. Okay? Just like, oh, you're so noogie, Andrew. Let me rub off that new spawn hair from their glorified body. I could be wrong, but I really believe that when you look at it in context, it's a worship thing. It's a love thing. It's, Mom, Antichrist. Oh. Or on their forehead. Or on their hand, and I just love it. And when you go to the store that says, let me see your mark. Oh, right there. Let me take. Yeah, or when you buy and sell, are you part of you're part of the tribe, you're part of community, you're part of the thing because you're showing love to the Antichrist. And it has to do with it says it's his mark, or his name of the beast, or the number of his name. Now, we don't know what the number of his name is, and that's why he says in verse 18, here is wisdom. Here is wisdom. That means when it happens, you'll know. He's not talking to us, the church. He's talking to the tribulation saints here. Here's wisdom. Calculate it out. Some people will say, let's try to find out who he is. The number belongs to the name. It's connected to the man. So let's do some calculations on what 666 is. Trying to figure it out. You know, I heard Ronald Wilson Reagan, 666. That's his name. Reagan was the Antichrist. No. You know, Bob Dole, his right arm was withered, you know. Oh, I heard that one during the election back in the day. You know, you try to hear it out. Who was, you know, this is my favorite one. I figured this one out today. You know, June 6th of 2006, that's his birthday. So that means the Antichrist is really 13 years old. That explains a lot about our junior hires today. No, I'm just joking. I don't know, you know. Oh, he's 13. He was born in 2006, you know. Well, I was married in 2006. But it just, no, you get crazy with all this stuff. Listen, do we have wisdom on these things yet? No. The people who will get left behind, the tribulation saints, they will. And so they're going to worship him through this mark. And we know from Revelation 12 that there's going to be a persecution of the Jews. Read Revelation 12 and you'll see it. And there's going to be a second Holocaust of the Jews. That's why Jesus says in Matthew chapter 24, when you see these things, and if you're in the field, don't go home to get a jacket, just run. If you're on the housetop, don't stop, just run. Jews, get out of town. That's who Jesus is talking about in Matthew chapter 24. He says, don't stop. Just when you see the abomination of desolation, run away. And where they're going to run to? We know they're going to run to a place called Petra in Jordan. And so that's the middle part. And then the third and last part, you'll see at the end of the tribulation, things aren't going well. I mean, we're not going to get into it because we don't have enough time, but we know that the Battle of Armageddon, he's trying to, listen, the second half of the tribulation, chaos upon chaos. There won't be fresh water. The oceans will be blood. We believe that the sun is going to be is dead or dying. That there's going to be a dimming of the sun and then an explosion of the sun, and then the sun will cease to shine its brightness. That's insane. And there'll be darkness on the earth during the last days. I believe the Battle of Armageddon will be held in total darkness. That sun will not be shining. Some people say it's for a period of time. Some people say it will be for the whole time. That's why when Jesus comes back, it's such a bright event. Because he shines forth and the whole earth will see his son coming. Guys, the Battle of Armageddon will be the Antichrist trying to hold on to the power of a dying planet. Crazy. And it says that he's going to be going down to Africa, maybe Egypt, the kings of the south, and he's going to be in the kings of the south, dealing with them, and then he's going to be troubled by the kings of the north, and so he's going to come up and meet the kings of the north in Israel, the glorious land. It says in Daniel 11, and then the kings of the east are going to come in. The Lord, in one of the judgments, is going to dry up the Euphrates River, and they're going to come in. And notice, why does the kings of the east? Well, who's that? China, India, the eastern peoples. They're going to come in. Japan, those armies will come in with a 1 million-man army. And they're going to come in, and they're going to, actually bigger than that, it says it there. We don't have time to get into it. I'm paraphrasing quickly. And they're going to meet in the Valley of Armageddon. We know from Revelation 14 that it's a 200-mile front or battle line. 200 miles that will reach from the Valley of Jezreel, which is known as the Valley of Armageddon, all the way down the Jordan Valley to the city of Jerusalem, to the Valley of Jehoshaphat, which is the Valley of Kidron, in between the Mount of Olives and the old city of Jerusalem. And it says that in Joel chapter 3, verse 2 and 12, that it's in the Valley of Jehoshaphat that when Jesus returns and he defeats all the armies, because we know that they're going to turn in Revelation chapter 19, verse 11 through 21, that when Jesus returns, he's going to return during that battle. In the eastern sky, right behind the enemies of the east, and when he appears, all of them will turn their weapons against Jesus. We're going to be there too. You're going to see it. If you're a Christian, you'll see it. And you'll see it. And when you see it, you're not going to fight. It's not going to be like Lord of the Rings. You know, you're like, let's go. Jesus is going to speak a word, and they're all going to be crushed. And it says that the blood will be splattered upon his robes. And it will be so great that in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the blood will flow to the horse's bridle. It'll be like a river of blood going down the Valley of Jehoshaphat. That's gross. And that's what he does there. And he'll come back, and he spends the next 45 to 75 days, I forgot the time, that there's a couple months that God will take, and he's going to redo the whole earth and bring us into the millennial kingdom. Set up his kingdom. Bring back nature, the devastation. He's going to heal it all. But the thing that we see, and this is where we're going to end in Revelation 19, verse 11, this passage right there. Now I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse. It's the Antichrist. No, it's not. It's the Christ. And he who sat on him was called Faithful and True. And in righteousness he judges and makes war. His eyes were like a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. He had a name written that no one knew except himself. Whoo! And he was clothed with a robe dipped in blood, and his name was called the Word of God. And the armies in heaven, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses. There we are. Now out of his mouth goes a sharp sword. That means a word. that with it he should strike the nations, and he himself will rule them with a rod of iron. And he himself treads the winepress of his fierceness and wrath of Almighty God. And he had on his robe and on his thigh a name written, right there, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Talk about prime advertising space on that horse. And then I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the birds that fly in the midst of the heavens, come and gather together for the supper of the great God. Now, isn't the Lord sweet? He's got a supper for the birdies. That you may eat the flesh of kings and the flesh of captains. Ooh, okay, maybe not that good. The flesh of mighty men and the flesh of horses, and to those who sit on them, and the flesh of all the people, free and slave, both small and great. And I saw the beasts and the kings of the earth. Now there's the Antichrist and the kings of the earth, and their armies gathered together to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army. And then the beast was captured. Wouldn't that? I can't wait to see that day where the Antichrist is captured with him and the false prophet. That's the head of the religious system, who works signs in the presence by which he deceived those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. These two were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone, and the rest were killed with the sword which proceeded from the mouth of him who sat on the throne, sat on his horse, and all the birds were filled with their flesh. Wow, that's the second coming. We'll get into that more in our last Bible study. But guys, let me tell you, what happened to the Antichrist? It says that he will be captured, and he's going to be the first occupant of this prime real estate called the lake of fire. I thought the lake of fire is hell. No, the lake of fire is uninhabited. It's a place that reserved for Satan and his demons. And guess what? And also, we know from the great white throne judgment, everyone who has ever rejected Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior throughout all time. And he's the first. He doesn't even get to go to the great white throne judgment. He's so wicked, he says, you're the first ones in, you and the false prophet. And they go into the lake of fire. And the lake of fire, guys, the lake of fire is horrible. It's Gehenna, the outer darkness, weeping and gnashing of teeth, where the worm never dies, eternal. And the first inhabitants are the Antichrist. And that's the end of his biography. Done and done. So you're like, why should we care about the Antichrist, man? It's a warning to be on the lookout. Be careful. 1 John, you can look it up later. We'll go deeply into the whole concept of beware of the spirit of Antichrist. The spirit of Antichrist dwells within the world today. It's an Antichrist spirit that is in the heart of the lost. Be careful of it. It's a warning. And we need to know it because he's going to be the last earthly ruler on earth before the King of Kings, the Ancient of Days, comes and rules on this planet. The world has to go through him to get to Jesus. Thank God we're going to be out here for this. We're going to be somewhere else. I don't even know if we're going to be able to see this because we're going to be so consumed with being with Jesus. I hope my desire right now is to see this go down. How does it all play out? Was my Bible study correct? And when I get to heaven, it's like, was I right? Who's right? Everybody's going to be looking at Tim LaHaye and says, you were so wrong. Everybody's looking at Chuck Smith, and Chuck Smith's like, hey, man, how is this all going to play out? When we get to heaven, I don't think we're going to be doing that. You know what we're going to be doing? We're going to be so smitten with Jesus. It's not even 7 years in heaven with him is going to get us used to him. And used to the glory that's going to be surrounded us. We'll know. We'll see it. It will go down. We'll have a front row seat for the coming of Jesus Christ, the second coming. We'll come back with him. We'll all be together. But man, the Antichrist, beware. There's going to be many false messiahs in the last days. And we see that. Be careful of that spirit of Antichrist. Keep a watch out for that shepherd, the unfaithful shepherd. But keep our eyes on the good shepherd. Amen? He's coming again. Dear Lord, we thank you for the word. We thank you for this time. And we thank you that you have laid it all out for us. In Jesus' name, amen.